All right, welcome back to the Koinonia podcast. I'm here with Dave Bakke, the placement coordinator for our office here in Placer County. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm amazing.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And so we are, we get about how many placements a year?
It depends, around 120 to 140.
Okay, and that does not mean that we actually house 100 kids here at one particular point in time. How often do kids stay?
Not very often, actually. Typically, they stay 30 to 60 days.
Okay, 36 days. So we do a lot of emergency placements here in Placer County. And so as far as when you get a call, what's the first thing you do?
First thing I do is look for a family. I kind of get a little information about the kiddo and see what needs they have, and then see if I can find the best family to match up for that.
Okay, so are you thinking about adoption like at the first...
No, unless I'm told otherwise. The county will sometimes say this is a strong adoption possibility, but that's pretty rare. Typically, it's more of a short-term situation.
So basically, when we're talking about adoption and we're talking about foster care, and everybody's curious, how do you end up adopting if you take a foster placement?
Well, typically what happens is the birth parents either don't do what they're supposed to do, or don't jump through the hoops they're supposed to jump through, and the county says, hey, this kid looks like it's going to come up for adoption. Are you interested?
So how long does that take?
Oh man, it's all over the map. It could take a month, it could take 6 months, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen cases that have gone anywhere between, I think 6 months would be like the fastest story I've heard. I've heard cases 3, 4, 5 years due to appeals and reunification services. And,
oh, right.
Yeah, and so what we call that is concurrent planning. 2 plans at once. You have the plan to reunify. That's always the first goal of the state, the county, the federal government. Everybody who makes the laws says get the kid back to biological mom, biological dad. And then from there, potentially they're looking at extended relatives. So what are some examples of extended relatives you've seen?
Well, there could be an aunt or uncle. There could be a grandmother, grandfather. And there's also what they call NRFM, a non-related extended family member. Could be a coach, could be a youth pastor.
Okay, so not blood related, but they are like related. Like you always have that auntie or that uncle that's not really related. And so the county looks at that as maybe a potential strong relationship that is a safe place for the child to go. Now, whether or not money is exchanged for kinship placements or NRFM placements, I don't know.
Right.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. We don't work for the county. We contract with the county, so we don't know exactly all of their rules. And so what other kind of let's say a family gets all the way and then they're a year in, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we found an uncle in Hawaii. Now, who wouldn't want to, find an uncle in Hawaii, right? You go stay with. And I actually saw that once. But that could happen too, right?
Absolutely,
at the last minute, the county could determine to move the kids somewhere else.
Yeah, that can happen. It's really important not to get too, I don't want to say too attached, but don't think that everything's going to happen just perfectly smooth, because it typically doesn't. Yeah,
it's quite a journey. It's I call it a roller coaster.
It is.
And so, so if a family comes to you and they say, hey, but we want to adopt, and you would say, or we typically say, we don't really do straight adoption, not in this program. We can help facilitate private adoption situations, but that's a different program. To foster to adopt, there's always the risk of the kid going back to family.
Absolutely.
But even with that, the kids still do get adopted through foster care. Some families come in and say, well, give me a kid that's right on the cusp of being ready to be adopted.
Yeah.
And what happens, how often do we see that?
That rarely happens. Yeah, there may be a situation where the county knows the background of this family, and they say, you know what, this probably is not going to go back.
It's a strong
possibility.
Strong. We call that like a strong concurrent placement, kind of leaning towards adoption. But there's never any guarantees with adoption. I always tell families, until the gavel, slams down in court and you take your picture with the judge on adoption day, up until that day, I mean, it's like, who knows?
Anything
man.
can happen. Yeah, absolutely.
But I encourage you, if you're still listening to this, you need to understand that these kids still need a home. And your likelihood of getting a younger child, because there is matching available for kids that are at that, moving towards adoption phase, sibling groups, older kids, kids with special needs. So when you hear about thousands of kids waiting to be adopted in foster care, they're not a baby waiting for you to come and, and take this healthy baby from the hospital and adopt through foster care. That happens occasionally. But what most often is available statistically in California is the older kids and the harder to place children, because most kids are in a home ready to adopt them. Most people are like, yeah, I'll keep the kid. I've had the kid for a year, 2 years. And the judge says, will you adopt? And they say, okay, we'll adopt.
Yeah.
And so we rarely get those kinds of placements. We do a lot of foster and then maybe adopt, which, as we're describing, is concurrent planning.
Yeah.
But is there a need?
There's a huge need. When we get a call to place a child, the first thing I do is look to see what families are available. And a lot of times there's not a lot of availability. There's families that have children already. So
we have families that do just foster care, who really aren't interested in adoption. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
You can foster and say, hey, don't call me with the strong concurrent placements. I'm not interested in that. We even have families that do respite.
Yeah.
So what's respite?
Respite's important. A lot of these parents who are helping us out, they just get tired, or they have a vacation planned. So they need a break from fostering. So we have families that will do just that. They'll just give them a break. They'll give them a week or a weekend to take care of them.
I think we'll do a different video on respite, because that's kind of its own thing.
It is, yeah.
We'll post that separately. So keep an eye out. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you can, see new videos that are being posted on a regular basis. And so anyway, we encourage you to step in, jump in, whether it's respite, emergency care, the possibility of adoption through foster care. But just remember, even if you do adopt in foster care, our founder used to say, you don't even get to keep your own kids.
Right.
Like, everybody's worried about kids leaving. Well, they should always eventually leave, whether it's your biological child, your adopted child, or your foster child. All children leave.
Yeah.
But the impact that you can make, whether it's 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 years, or 10 years, you can impact a child's life no matter what you have to give. It's worth it to go through the process with us. So thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
All right, thanks.